Hey everyone, it's Raven Maureen, and this is the final vacation sewing video. It is the night before the trip, and I have so much to do, so little time. I gotta do the top. I gotta do the top for the Saguaro set. So I haven't even cut into my fabric yet. I need to do possibly a full bust adjustment on this pattern piece. So I am in for the long haul. I still have to pack. I still need to run some errands. Don't even get me started. And I still need to make a pan of lasagna for Joe that he can have over the weekend. Okay, enough. Let's get into it.
As it turns out, I will have to complete an FBA on the top. I measured myself offline and the bodice does not cover my entire bust. So I traced the pattern piece on dotted paper, transferred all the notches and the grain line, and then I added the apex based on my natural apex. And the way you find out what your natural apex is by measuring from shoulder all the way down to where your nipple is. I'm sorry, there's no other way to explain it. Next, I drew a line along the notch on the shoulder all the way down to the curve of the sleeve. This is where I'm going to cut off my sleeve temporarily to complete the adjustment. Be sure to add a notch here for when you decide to reattach the sleeve. And then you're going to cut that away. Now that we are focusing only on the bodice, follow the apex and the grain line and draw a line from the bottom of the bodice to the apex. The next line you'll draw will be a slight slant and roughly ½ an inch lower than your apex. After that, using the notch that you added to the sleeve, draw a line that connects the notch to the apex. And the last line that you'll draw will be the line that goes across the bodice and runs through the apex. And now we will cut this out and begin our slash and spread method. We're going to begin with the first line we drew, and we are going to cut through the apex and leave a small hinge by the notch in the sleeve. Then we are going to cut through our dart leg and leave a small hinge near the apex. Grab extra paper for underneath and use the tape on the larger pattern piece to keep it in place. Next, we are going to grab our see-through ruler and go ahead and draw a new line to place your hinge. I marked mine 1 inch away. You may need to experiment with this part and see if 1 inch or more may work for you. Once you have redrawn your line, go ahead and tape the legs down. Now cut the bottom line that runs perpendicular. The bottom of this piece needs to match the bottom of your new legs that you redrew and drafted for your new bodice piece. Once you have made this adjustment, fill in your lines as needed, and you might see a dart forming on the side by the sleeve. And if you want to make that into a dart, go for it, but I chose not to because this is a more relaxed fit that I wanted. And once I did that, it did not change the way the shirt fell across my bust at all. Make sure you use your tape anywhere that's needed for it to be taped down and held together. Now it's time to reattach your sleeve. So go ahead and cut it out of the dotted paper that we used. And once you attach it, you're going to notice that there is a small wedge or space between the sleeve and the bodice. This is absolutely normal and okay, and you'll want the extra room in the blouse because remember, this is still a dolman sleeve and it's a super relaxed fit. Make sure to use tape, reattach, and connect the notch as well. Now let's cut the entire bodice out. and I cut a muslin or a toile to see if this fits. I also recommend truing up the front and the back to make sure that the bottom hem matches your new bodice piece for the front. If it doesn't, you can add a 1/2 inch to the back bodice piece hem, which is what I did, and it worked out perfectly. By the way, if you have enjoyed watching this process and if you're following along, don't forget to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And you can also buy me a coffee as well. Buying me a coffee does help donate to supplies like the muslin that I am using, dotted paper, extra supplies, and whatnot to help this experience, this learning experience, go a long way.
Okay, so this is obviously the muslin. I kind of look like a little football player. Anyway, so this is the muslin. I actually put the bathing suit top that I'm thinking about wearing underneath it just to see how my boobs and everything would sit. And I just feel covered and I feel confident and I know I'll feel comfortable. So then obviously at that point I would add the bottom band, and then the bottom band would just kind of give me a little bit of like a gather, but this is literally right here where it needs to be. The back is perfect. I'm all set, honestly. Yeah.
One of the last things that we will adjust is the front band piece of the Saguaro set. Now, you'll have to adjust this according to how many inches that you added to your full bust adjustment on both sides. I added 2 inches total. Now we can begin with our normal construction process. Pin the front bodice to the back piece, right sides together, and sew it at the shoulder seams. And I do want to share a little bit about this pattern. You might notice that the bodice piece has a line where you can adjust the length if you're looking at the pattern piece. And I thought about just doing that when I was considering doing an adjustment, but when I realized that it would give me too much room in the arms or in the sleeves, I opted for the full bust adjustment. Next, add in your bias binding, and that should have been cut out earlier as well. I did add a few extra inches to the bias binding to account for my new size for the bodice. And I ironed my tape off camera, and I carefully made sure I was within the seam allowance at my sewing machine. It's a very narrow 1/4 inch allowance. I gave the bias tape another press offline and then edge stitched the bias binding to the bodice. Be careful not to run the iron across the bodice, but simply press it in place using a pressing ham. This will avoid excess stretching in the garment and the fabric. And once that's complete, sew up the side seams at the sleeve curve. Next, sew up your band the same way as we did the pants, and then attaching it to the bodice and leaving a 2-inch opening to add the elastic casing. Then, just like the pants, stretch the elastic and adjust your stitch length as well to 3.5. And then go ahead and hem your sleeves, add your clothing tag, and you are all set.
All right, you guys, I gotta go pack. I gotta go make dinner. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.